tell the American people what they want to hear, has to tell them what they need to hear.
Senator Edwards, you're the only one not in on this so far. Your turn.
Well, I want to get in. I think, first of all, we need to recognize what the obstacles are to the change that everyone believes is necessary. And the obstacles are oil companies, power companies, all those entrenched interests that stand between America and the change that it needs. And we do need a president who will actually ask Americans to be patriotic about something other than war, who will say to America, for us to deal with these issues and deal with them in a serious way, whether it's cap and trade, whether it's carbon, cap and trade is what I propose, but either way, it's a serious effort to move America off its dependence on carbon-based fuels and deal with what I think is a moral crisis, which is the future of the planet for our children and our grandchildren. We have a responsibility to future generations, an enormous responsibility. I mean, 20 generations came before us, our parents, our grandparents, and did everything they could do to leave America better than they found it, and to make certain that their children had a better life than they've had. That's what our responsibility is. Our moral responsibility is to rise up as a nation with the right kind of president and the right kind of leadership and go after these huge moral responsibilities that we're faced with.
Thank you.
Carolyn, do you want to ask us to raise our hands about global warming?
I wasn't doing the
You didn't get a very good response
today
from the Republicans
I wasn't
yesterday.
doing that today.
We all want to be on record. We believe in it. We think it's a real problem.
The Senate on Tuesday, I'll ask you to raise your hands on this. How about that? Not really, but you'll have a minute to talk about this. The Senate on Tuesday rejected a proposal to replace traditional subsidies for certain crops and shift the money to conservation and nutrition and biofuels programs. It would have replaced the subsidies with an insurance program tied to farm revenues. Senators, none of you were there for the vote. How would you have voted and why? You have 1 minute, starting with Senator Dodd.
Well, I would have voted for it. I think Tom Harkin's been doing a terrific job in changing the direction of the reforms in agriculture. And the idea of encouraging more conservation, being good custodians of the land, I often pointed out here as I travel around the state that people have reminded me that Iowa represents as much as 10%, maybe more, of the most fertile land in the world here. And the generation of Iowans here, all of us bear a responsibility to see to it that this incredible world global resource is going to be preserved and protected. So moving in a direction here that encourages the diversity of farming in the state, I think makes a great deal of sense. That encourages conservation and alternative uses are ones that all of us ought to support. Not only Iowans, but across this country, so that we preserve this very valuable resource for fiber, food, and energy as you're developing here in this state.
Senator Obama.
You know, I have made as a centerpiece for my rural farm agenda that we lower the subsidies, that we cap the subsidies, because too many of them are going to agribusiness. We've got folks in Manhattan who are getting farm subsidies. We've got Fortune 500 companies who are getting farm subsidies. And as a consequence, family farms are getting squeezed out. And you're seeing more and more consolidation. This is something you hear about all across rural Iowa. So what I would do is I would cap those subsidies. I think we have to have a structure that provides protection of farmers from drought or a collapse in market prices. But we have to take that money that is saved, invest in conservation, invest in organic and alternative crops, invest in nutrition programs. Through that process, we can not only save the land, but we can also improve the economic engines in a lot of these rural communities. And that is something that I'm absolutely committed to doing as President of the United States, but it's going to require overcoming the excess influence of agribusiness in Washington.
So would you have voted for or against the proposal Tuesday?
There were elements of the proposal on Tuesday that I think did not make the changes the way I would have approached it. So I probably would have voted against it, but there was a vote today that I voted for that would have capped the subsidies so that it wouldn't be going to these folks who don't deserve them.
Senator Biden.
I would have voted for it. Look, you know, one of the interesting things, first time I ever came out to Iowa was with Senator Culver on his first campaign in '74. And one thing seems different now. You ride across this magnificent state, you see so much open land and so few farmers. It's kind of fascinating. You know, you'd think you'd see a farmhouse every, 800 acres or so. But the irony is, this is all about how do you preserve family farmers? Only 550,000 of them left. And if you continue the system the way it is, it's breaking the system. It's going to just flat break the system. And the cost of, an acreage has gone up with these excessive payments. The fact that we're not focusing on the things which the farm program started out to focus on, helping farmers in distress, and being the ballast when the market was out of whack. It's gotten all out of whack, and so it seems to me that we need a radical change. Tom is working hard on that, but I would have voted for it, and I voted for I voted today the same way Barack and all the rest of us did to maintain, to lower the caps.
Senator Clinton, how would you have voted?
Yeah.
Well, I think you're referring to the Lugar-Lautenberg bill. And I have been following Senator Harkin's lead on what needs to be done with the farm bill. So I would have voted against that and then voted, as I did today, for the limit on subsidies. But this really goes beyond a particular amendment. There's so much that we could do that would really help family farmers and help rural development. I've got a dozen or so of my family farmers from New York traveling around Iowa today, talking to family farmers about what I've been trying to do to open up more markets, to give more support, to see rural economic development more broadly. So we do need a farm bill, and Tom Harkin's been working like a Trojan to get it done, and he's making progress, but he keeps getting beaten back all the time on conservation, on environmental stewardship, on subsidy limits. And when I'm president, we're going to finally make these changes, because I believe that if we don't, we're going to see increasingly our family farmers as an endangered species. That's not good for any of us. So I'm going to do everything I can to get to a point where we truly have a farm policy for family farmers.
I'm going to save that question for the senators in the room, and we're going to move on, I'm afraid. I want to have the last two 30-second candidate statements. The next two, Senator Clinton first, and then Senator Dodd.
You know, everywhere I go across Iowa, I'm impressed by the people I meet and touched by the stories they tell me, especially the first-time caucus goers. And everyone wants change. Well, everybody on this stage has an idea about how to get change. Some believe you get change by demanding it. Some believe you get it by hoping for it. I believe you get it by working hard for change. That's what I've done my entire life. That's what I will do as president. I will end the war in Iraq and bring our sons and daughters home. I will get quality, affordable health care for every single American, and I will not rest until every child has a chance to live up to his or her God-given potential. So I hope you will. Go caucus for me on January 3rd. Stand up for me, and I'll stand up for you during this campaign and when I'm in the White House.
Thank you. Senator Dodd.
Well, first of all, thank you, Carol. First of all, let me begin by, on behalf of Jackie and my children, thanking Iowans. We've been warmly and graciously received here over the last number of months, and we're very grateful to the state for all of that. One of the things I've tried to do in this campaign is to talk about positive ideas and also about results here, because I think Iowans, like us other Americans, want to know not only what you're going to do, but give us some sense of confidence and optimism that you've got a record of actually achieving ideas that brings people together, Republicans, Democrats, Independents. It's what I've done for 26 years as the author of the Family and Medical Leave Act, the first Children's Caucus, working to bring Democrats and Republicans together. I'm a former Peace Corps volunteer, and I served in the military. I'm the only candidate to have done both those public service, and we believe very strongly that that kind of background and history contributes as well to the decision-making that a president must make. So on January 3rd, we ask for your vote. This isn't about wealth or celebrity. It's about choosing the best candidate who can win and who will lead our country.
Thank you. I want to move to another topic that affects Americans' ability to compete in a global economy, and that's education. Please describe the key features of what you consider to be the best education system in the world, and tell us your goals and timetable for making U.S. schools among the best. Senator Edwards, 1 minute.
The starting place is to get the children young and get them on the right track, which is why we ought to have universal pre-K for 4-year-olds in America. We also should go younger than that to deal with the nutrition, health needs, child care needs of younger children, based on some models that have been developed here in Iowa and also in my state of North Carolina. I think we ought to have a national teaching university where we attract the smartest, brightest young people in America to this university. It's like the Naval Academy, and we pay for their education, and they go out to the places in America where we so desperately need them. I think that we ought to give bonus incentive pay to teachers who are willing to go to the most difficult places. We need to radically change No Child Left Behind, and if that doesn't work, we should get rid of it. But there are huge changes that are needed in No Child Left Behind. And we need second chance schools, because in so many places in America, we still have 2 public school systems. I mean, I would never have been able to do what I've done in this country had I not had a great public school education. It was the foundation for everything that I've done. And what you see in America is you see very wealthy suburban schools that get everything they need, and then poor rural schools, poor inner city schools that are struggling, having an extraordinarily difficult time. I am committed to doing something to create one school system that works for everybody.
Thank you. Governor Richardson.
Well, I would make education